So, hi everyone. I'm going to start with a very quick intro about myself. So, many people know me from different areas of my life, but I want to make sure I give a very small intro about myself. I have 25 years of MS experience. When I say MS, 10 of these is Microsoft MS, 15 of these is Morgan Stanley MS. I'm a Microsoft MVP for .NET. I'm a Linux Foundation MVP for a lot of things I have been done for Linux Foundation. I am one of the only 40 Azure developer influencers in the world, and I am one of the 60s distinguished engineer at Morgan Stanley out of like 100,000 people. So that's a fun thing. I did work on many different projects in my life. Some people know me from my work on the OpenXML standard, on the FINRA standard. Some people know me as one of the team members of the original team who created .NET and C#, but I worked on Dynamics, Visual Studio, I worked on Azure Table Storage, I worked on the HoloLens, and a lot of fun stuff there. When it comes to the Linux Foundation, I'm not only an MVP for them, but I am actually co-chair of the oversight committee. I am a book writer, patent holder. I worked on some fun open source projects earlier in my life, like Hibernate, the objection relationship mapper. I was one of the employees at JBoss for that. I worked for Apache on the Velocity templating engine. I'm a frequent presenter at various places, Meta, conferences, Aurora conferences, Microsoft, Linux Foundation conferences, and so on. I'm a certified teacher from many fun technologies, and I am very active in areas like the OS climate or the responsible AI and a few other areas. But before I will start with my presentation, I have a little Valentine surprise for everyone. So please open your phone's camera, aim at the QR code, and click on the link that you are going to have. Please. I'm going to leave like 2 minutes for people to join. We are going to do a small Menti. I don't know whether you know Menti. It's a technology where you are able to ask questions and get answers real time. We are starting with a very easy question is, where are you joining from? We are going to use this as a test whether the Menti is working, and as people are joining, you can see the same QR code for joining the Menti on this screen as well. And you also do have the code at the top. So if you didn't manage to do that, you can use the menti.com website, enter the code 2811907. You can see a growing number of people joining. I will give like 1 or 2 minutes for people to join the Menti. And after that, we will start with the actual real questions.
Well, after your short CV introduction, we are out of time. So
Thank you. No.
thank you. And that's a short one. That was a short intro, but the list goes on. It's quite amazing. Anyway,
So yeah, I see already 7 people in. So please keep joining. 8. Okay. So yes, you should just take your phone, aim it to the QR code on the screen. You will get to a website where you will get these questions and you can answer them. Okay. So meanwhile, people are still joining, and I'm happy to see people joining from Europe as well, and different parts of the United States. Wow, growing number of people from Europe. Thanks for staying up so late. And from the West Coast. Interesting. You're having a nice range of people joining from everywhere. So let
yeah.
me.
Hey, Bart from the Netherlands. Cool.
Oh, nice.
I think it's only like 6:30 there. I guess it's a little late.
Okay. So our first question is an easy one. How familiar are you with AI, programming, and Microsoft tech? So please use your sliders to set up how familiar you are. This is for us to understand the audience that we are having here. And the whole thing is anonymous, so we are not going to see you who you are. We will just see a kind of merged average of the people. Okay, we have some Microsoft aficionados here, which is good. If you are joining only now, you should go to the website menti.com and enter the digits that are at the top of the screen, 28119007. Okay, I'm going to leave 1 more minute for people to answer this question. The next question is actually related to a running joke between me and Doug. So originally, we had a pack of chocolate-dipped strawberries as part of the advertisement for these sessions. What do you think? Why?
I got to say, that's a pretty funny joke.
Yes, I know, but I am curious whether anyone gets the joke. I will leave a few minutes for people to type out the answer, if they know.
I could never be a stand-up comedian because I have references only like 3 people understand.
Oh no, I mean, yes! Congratulations.
I can barely to count R's and strawberry. I love it.
I love the answers.
Awesome.
So yes, chocolate dipped because of Valentine's, but strawberries because of the number of R's in strawberry not being able to be counted by particular GPTs. It's very funny. So that and comparing numbers is usually what I start with testing whether an AI is good, like comparing 9.9 to 9.11. That's actually an interesting question as well that not many AIs can or able to do. Okay, so
It's not good at version numbers. Yes, go
it's
ahead.
not good as version numbers. So this is the actual first real question. What do you think is a foundational model is? You have the 4 different answers. Give people a little more time to read the definitions and make a choice, then I will actually show what is the correct answer.
Which cosmetic product does it layer use as a base?
I don't know. I don't use cosmetic products. I'm using AI to get rid of my wrinkles, you know?
That's good.
Hey, of course. Thanks everyone for picking B. For the next question, what is the purpose of prompt engineering?
Wow,
Wow, we have very good prompt engineers, I think, at this call.
that's good.
That's good.
They came to the right place.
Yeah. Next question is about a prompt. Translate the English sentence, hello, how are you, to French. What type of prompting does this example belong to? This is a little harder than the previous ones. Okay. Which of the following techniques involves adjusting the level of randomness in language model outputs?
These are great questions. I would never have thought to ask folks this stuff.
Uh, you know, sometimes you get interesting ideas,
Mhm.
like what kind of cosmetic products.
Mary Kay. That's the only one I know. Cool. Nice.
Yeah, we are revealed the answer, which is temperature scaling. So it is
That's a
the
tough question if you haven't gotten into some of the details.
yeah. So this is going on to the intimate details. And this is actually the last question. Which of these is regarded as the best way to utilize your private domain-specific data with LLMs?
Cool. It's interesting to see people back off
Yeah,
their answers.
yeah, no, so this is actually an interesting question. So I wrote the questions. I picked the answer on the right. I can see why some people would pick the one on the left, and I'm not saying they are wrong. I'm just saying reg might be the best way today, not necessarily in the future. Today, probably reg still considered the best way to do that. Yes, fine-tuning and retraining is a thing that's happening and is an important thing, true. But I think when it's the question really about what is the best, is probably this one.
I was going to say that was a trick question, but
Yeah. Oh, I
the
always
best
do
way.
tricks. Come on. You know me. I only do tricks.
Excellent
So
tricks.
if you already have your phone out, you should keep your phone out because we have another QR code. This is something you can fill out during the session, after the session, and so on. This is the QR code Microsoft gave us for collecting feedback of the sessions that we are doing. So this is the survey season of AI QR code. I will have it one more time at the end of the session as well. But in case you want to open the survey now, you can do that now as well.
It'd be great if you could fill that out or at least do a couple for us MVPs giving this. It'd be
Yeah, yeah,
appreciated.
yeah, because it's very useful for us to see how it goes. So let me start the actual presentation now with this whole thing away. So I will talk
I just
about
want to say that Peter introduced me to Menti, and I only came up with one question, and I didn't, but I wasn't going to show it. And my question was, which do you prefer? Where do you land, spaces or tabs? But anyway, moving on.
do you really
Moving
want to start a war now?
on. Of course, you have tricks. I like chaos. Anyway,
Steps forever, by the way, no question. So coding of the future of AI. So I will talk about a few different areas and I will touch a lot of things as part of it. But let me start with the main point, and this is something I strongly believe in. We are in the stage of the world. Everything is going to change. Every app will be reinvented with AI. Apps you wouldn't expect to be reinvented with AI. Sometimes even the AI will give you the idea how to reinvent an app. Actually, it has been happened to me. I was like looking at an app running on my watch, and I was like, yeah, there's no way I would have AI in this app ever. And I entered it into a prompt engineering, and 5 minutes later, I had like 2 pages of ideas how AI could be in that watch app. And I was like, actually, that would be useful. Oh, that would be amazing. So I was like, okay, I was wrong. Yeah, AI would be there in my watch as well. But next to this, next to having every app kind of light up, if running in the right environment, a whole new generation of apps, a whole new area of apps could be and will be built that were never possible before, because that's what we are aiming for, and that's what we are looking for this. And we look at some numbers. So we look at around 1 billion new applications built in the next 24, 36 months. This sounds a crazy number, but it's not unrealistic. Many of the applications would be simplistic, using just some reg to create an agent for yourself or something more complex, but it is happening. Same way, organizations are accelerating app modernization to bring AI into the existing applications. I mentioned patents at the beginning. I actually do have a patent which is related to accelerate app modernization using AI. This is now a crazy area, and everything is happening there. And you can be honest, because it's just a few of us here. You did use AI as part of your developer toolset already. I think that 90% might be low. It might be even more. There's no way you never asked an AI a question. That AI might have been some AI built into your search engine. Google Gemini, the Bing chatbot, and so on might have been the one that had been helping you and brought up the answer that might have been better than Stack Overflow. So,
I've only used it to ask what wine I should have for dinner. So,
and
that counts. Well, it always gets it wrong because I have to drink gluten-free wine. So anyway, but
okay.
it'll learn from me. Good points though. This is fantastic.
But this is the point. This is about system training. You train it once that you cannot drink gluten posed wine, and it will know it. Next time it will answer you the right one. So, but the reality is actually not that nice. So AI POCs are being done by many of the companies. The conversion rate is not that good. We have organizations that are only in planning and experimentation stage. It's not there yet. We have a lot of factors hindering Gen AI for production. And of course, the usual rules and things are there. You know, those numbers and percentage, how many percentage of the projects never goes to production and so on. Those still apply. So we are actually not there yet. On the other side, AI is there in your tooling. So your beloved tools, whether it's Visual Studio, whether it's GitHub, whether it's Copilot Studio, whether it's Visual Studio Code, of course, it's there. AI is there. AI is just literally on your fingerprint. If you have a Copilot PC, it might be literally a fingerprint because you have a Copilot button there. Come on, that's a cool thing there. AI development is not that hard as we are trying to show it. Of course, we developers are trying to protect our area and say that AI development is hard, but it's actually not that hard. You basically want to have a prompt, model, the response, running the code, you have the data coming in. It's pretty easy and everything. When you are trying to do this at scale, enterprise level, it might be a little more complex, but you are going to have things like agents, and your answer might be complex or question might be complex. So you have agents as part of that. You have extraction, everything. So there's a lot of things are happening there. But this whole thing, in a nutshell, is not that much different than, I don't know, you run a query to read from a database, you display it on the screen. It's different, but not that much different. You are not accessing a database, you are accessing something else. But at the same time, the way how we are writing the code, whether it's about code testing, for example, whether it's about code maintenance and so on, all of these are changing. I haven't met a company yet who said that, okay, I am going to check in the code that was generated by AI without human review and put it into production. But we are not far from a random company saying that, and that random company might be the cornerstone of the internet and will cause issues. And when it comes to testing and everything, that's also an important one. I mean, Doug is going to be brave so brave that I am not willing to do. He will do some live demos. I am chickened out. I was like, doing live demos of AI? Yeah, I'm not going to do that. But we move from something which was deterministic. You wrote your code, it was running, environment might have changed, and the neutrino might have hit your RAM and flipped a bit, but otherwise it was deterministic. Now you are going into the probabilistic world. Instead of you writing code, you might be writing prompt. You got into prompt engineering, and you might need to have next to your science and electronic engineering and whatever major, you might need an English major suddenly to do prompt engineering. Instead of you building features, you are now creating smaller agents that are talking to each other. If you look at this whole thing, this whole agents talking to each other is reinventing microservices over and over. We have WSDL and UDDI, then we have SOA. It's again microservices, just we call them now agents. It's a little different. And instead of I already mentioned the testing part is something that's going to hurt everyone. Instead of you being able to test, it's more like you are going to evaluate the results. You cannot really do the real testing anymore because it's not like a black and white testing anymore. You cannot really depend on the testing results. So to help this, there are different stacks has been built. One of the stacks that we can talk about is
Before you go into
Yep,
that, I
yep.
apologize for interrupting. If I can save my questions to the end, but did you see Andre Karpathy this past week or so? He was saying it's all about vibe coding.
Yes, why? Yeah. So you and I we discussed about it. I know a guy called Charles Shimoni. He's well known probably for inventing Office and for inventing a lot of other stuff at Microsoft. I did work with the guy more
Plus, he
than
dated Martha Stewart. Go ahead.
yes, yes, that's a very important famous thing about him too. But more than 20 years ago, 25 more, he was working on something which he called intentional programming, which is very similar to what Karpati was talking about when he said vibe coding. So intentional programming and coding are somewhat similar. You are just expressing your intention instead of you expressing your code. And the intention might be in English language, might be using other symbols. So it's not even, again, a very definite way how you are expressing that part of the thing. So I was to talk about the stack. So one of the important part of the stack is, again, I already mentioned, reliable AI and responsible AI. This is important. So when I look at this whole thing, look at this screen, one of the major point for me is the trustworthy AI. We have all seen various ways how you can break AIs and how you are jailbreak AIs and do them things that you don't want to do it. Imagine if you are writing code and something is happening like that. You might be added a backdoor without your knowledge into your code or something. So that part of the trustworthy AI is very, very important. But on the other hand, we have these different layers coming from the infrastructure, which is somewhere there are some machines running your stuff, which might be machines close to you, might be running on your phone, might be running on your watch in the future, but might be running on the edge, might be running in a data center, might be running on your Copilot PC, which do have a separate MPU just for that. It's up to you. Then you have your data. We already talked about the data as part of the initial setup. So your data, your embeddings, your information is one of the part. Then you have the Microsoft naming commando again hit jackpot, calling it Azure AI Foundry. When I first heard it, I was like, I have no idea what it is, and I don't even want to know from this name. So, I mean, yeah, it's a very, very strange name, at least for me. But yeah. But the idea is that your IDs are able to communicate with this setup, and you are able to get back your result. You are a developer, so you're starting from something small. You start from your data. your proof of concept, you discover, you evaluate, you prove that the whole thing works. Then you are going to advance the project, or you are going to revert the project back where, because you are trying to get it to production quality. Then you are actually going to do the continued development for the future kind of thing. You know, the continue improve the user interface. Again, advancing the project, reverting the project. Does it look like similar to many of those agile thing? Yeah, this is a kind of prompt engineering, AI, agile thing again and again explained here. The main point is that you should use AI in every step of this. If you have AI now to look at your raw data and suggest things that you should do with that data, we have tools to generate better UI based on that data and so on. So for each of these points, we have now very good solutions. And you should look at this whole journey as a journey where you are going to sit on the AI bandwagon, hopefully towards the right direction. But that's the idea, that you would be depending on AI and working on AI for this. So let's start to work from left to right here. Let's first try to build a proof of concept. So you can use developer, can use the IDs, you can do the different portals, you can do the different shells, you can use extensions, whether this extension coming from Microsoft, from other vendors, you can actually change which language model are underneath it. Most people are already aware, but not everybody is aware that Microsoft enables you to pick, I don't know, for example, Google Gemini or the Claude model underneath GitHub Copilot. You don't have to use the Microsoft one and so on. So it's about embracing the developer choice, understanding the existing documentation, the repos, the samples, understand your own code. If you are doing something particular way at your company, you are able to do it this way still. And then, of course, we have all these different SDKs, clients, libraries, packages. I can talk about semantic kernels and all these things are. I'm not going to go into that details. I leave that to Doug, who will definitely touch base on this. So the good news is that Microsoft created a bunch of tools, and I will or talk about some of those. So they have the OpenAI SDK. Again, it's a naming thing. Azure OpenAI SDK. It can connect to some non-OpenAI stuff as well, but that's again a naming thing here. They have it for Python, .NET, JavaScript, Java, Go, and more languages getting added as we speak. This is a nicely built library. It has new features. They recently added streaming features to it. They added RX APIs around it, and so it's actively getting features added to it.
Is there a PowerShell version?
It's called PSAI.
Thank you. I'm glad it made it to your slide. Go ahead.
So the next topic is I want to talk about is thing that I couldn't even figure out what is this Azure AI Foundry. So the way how Microsoft is telling what it is, that they call this unified tool chain for AI application development. They are trying to pick all these different things, whether it's a module catalog or foundational open source, paid and so on, industry trained models and so on. Then they have the different services, agent services around the context safety, about the OpenAI connectivity itself. Then they do have the different ways for observe it to governments, monitor, customize, and so on your words. So this is more or less what they are trying to cover into when they are calling it Azure AI Fund. It's a little confusing name. Maybe it's just me. I know what the words mean, each of them, but how they come together is not really obvious there. You can learn about it on aiazure.com. So as I mentioned, it tries to cover each of the services, how you can create an AI project, how you can use inferencing, how you can do the search, how you can do it deploying. So they are actually enables you to go through each of these steps. You can create a connection to the Azure OpenAI service. You can access the inference service. You can use something like Phi. I don't know whether you heard about the Microsoft model Phi. It's an open source model that you can download and run it on your machine. I actually do have the Microsoft AI gallery which has a lot of nice fee-based solutions. So you can use your local CPU, GPU, or MPU for do like image recognition, categorization, source code generation, and so on, just using your local models that might be based on the fee. So you can access a lot of different models. You can see the list below, whether they're coming from Meta, Mistral, different labs, Cohere. Yeah, you can access all these uh, using these services. You have app templates. So you have some commands. I don't know whether you ever use the command AZD. AZD has a lot of nice parameters. One of them is you can initialize it for a new template. This is actually showing how you would initialize it for a basic Python template. Then you just say AZD up, and the whole thing just start working, which is very funny. I did work on a NDA project with Microsoft many years ago. It was called Microsoft Como, and both AZD and both the .NET Aspire is actually a kind of grandkid of that project in many sense, and trying to do many things that project which never came to, like Microsoft Como is doing. So it's very interesting. As a result, just you running two commands, an AZD init and AZD up. Of course, after you have all the logins and everything there, you will have just something running, and you can start having the discussion with a basic application. This time it being in Python, but could be in many other languages. Next to this, Microsoft do have the agent services. So we already talked about agents. I think everybody knows what an agent is, so I don't have to really explain what an agent specifically is. But you can create very easily new agents. You can create agents using messages that will form its system messages, and the way it works, you can upload different vectors, which might be the information and the file search that you are providing to it. So in just a few lines of code on the screen is actually, it's in Python, you can get very easily. So let's say you already did this. You already run AZD init, AZD up, you added a few agents. Now you figure out this project start to grow over you, and you want to be able to work more than one person on it. That's where things like the evaluation part comes to it, the batch runs, the human feedback, how you are able to fine tune the whole thing, not fine tuning that way. But if you really need to start to do this, there comes the problem. I mean, you will evaluate, you will find issues. Funnily, with AI, I don't like to call them bugs, because it's very hard to define what is a bug when it comes to AI. It didn't give me the answer I expected. Is it a bug? Yes, technically it's a bug, but it's not the usual kind of bug where you have an exception line and or something is not showing on the screen. It's a little more probabilistic and less deterministic how you do it. But then you can start optimizing. So you can work
I just
with.
want to throw my 2 cents on that. And,
Yep.
people talk about hallucinating, and, hallucinations are not a bug, and it's not necessarily
Yep.
bad. It's depending on how you're doing your prompting. I work with AI, and I brainstorm with it. I want it to hallucinate. It freaks me out when I give it code, my code and it starts making up function names. But at the same time, I look at what it generates. I go, oh, that's a better name than I came up with. So bugs are definitely a strange category for this.
It was funny. So I was using it to generate some code, and it wrote a code for calling an API that doesn't exist in an official product. I was like, but I at the same time I was like, how nice would it be to have an API? So I actually used it. Okay, could you give me the code, what you think this API would be? Gave it, and I actually ended up doing an open source PR against this project and giving that extra
That's
API for them, because like actually this API would be nice for you. Because
that's
but the
awesome.
whole thing starts with a hallucination, which actually goes back to this whole temperature question. So if you are able to fine tune the temperature, in most cases you can fine tune the level of hallucinations. How hallucinative you want it to be.
And just to take that point that you made, take it a step further, there's no reason that, as we're starting to see Copilot be part of GitHub on the web,
Yeah.
right? And be part of GitHub Actions, there's no reason that you can't have a separate piece that actually every kind of time there's a check-in, not only is it going to check your code, check the tests, but you can say, hey, you can do code reviews, which I'll show later today,
Yeah.
but you can also do things like, hey, show me some improvements. And then that becomes part of the feedback circle, as well as you can let it make the changes in a different branch. So it's just a bizarre set of next steps where we can go. Back to Peter's original slide saying, what are we going to see change in the next
Yeah.
12?
No, it reminded me of the now we can say at least here and joke that will AI take away your job? And the answer is no, someone using AI better than you will take away your
Hey,
job.
stop taking my line. That's part of my slides.
Really?
I've been saying that since 22, but I
You
didn't
see?
I didn't come up with it. But yeah, AI won't take your job, but somebody who knows how to use it, they're gonna smoke you.
I think it's somebody who knows how to use it better than you.
Oh, absolutely. People like you, the alphas, are gonna dominate this space.
So optimizing can be different things, what you are optimizing for. So one of the way you can optimize it, actually recently I wrote a nice LinkedIn article about this, is reducing the token count. So there are ways how you can reduce the token count and sometimes even at the same time improve the quality if you are thinking through. And what I find it fascinating with good prompt engineering, you can ask actually the AI to optimize your prompt for better quality and for less cost, which is very funny. Hey, AI, can you make yourself be cheaper? Kind of questions actually are valid. So the other thing is you can try different models. So not everything you have to use the newest O3 high deep search, whatever thing. For that question, GPT-3.5 might be just perfect, And same way about all these open source models, whether it's you are using Phi or Mistral or any of these models, some of them might be better choices than the other. I was doing a session with a vendor where they invited four different AI into a room. It was actually in virtual reality, and they actually had a discussion, the AIs and you between each other, and each of the AI was giving their angle and their best. And it was very interesting to see how the AIs were cutting into each other's word and saying that no, that can be done better. And you were like, okay, that was Mistral. Okay, now I'm making a stroke next to Mistral that is good in this. So it was very funny to
That
do this.
that's awesome. And I'm sure that you've seen the latest Replit, what they came out with. You
Yeah.
can actually so it's a Python based app. It's a great tool. I play with it a lot. I know it's not Microsoft, but they just released this piece where you can sit on your phone and you can do something like, I need a thing to track my workout today. I need an app to do that. And they have a button called improve prompt. I think it's what
Yeah.
they called it. And then you hit that button, it improves the prompt, builds the app, and delivers it back to the phone. So that's just really just one way to imagine how to use this stuff. So to Peter's point, sitting in a room in VR or, and having these things are absolutely. And it's a fantastic time to be alive.
Yeah, it is. It is actually in my mind. All these technology things that are happening now, whether it is spatial computing, quantum computing, AI, everything will eventually come together as singularity and will change humanity forever. Hopefully for the better, and not like a Terminator scenario or something. So hopefully it will be a good one. Uh, so when you have done your work with AI, and this is one of those AIs that around chat and interaction and everything, you have to still integrate it into your website. You have to integrate it into your team's experience. That's where agent SDKs like the Microsoft 365 Agent SDK might be becoming useful, which has a thing called Copilot Studio where you can actually work and upload your prompts, and they even have a prompt library that you can do use there this way. So you have this kind of different levels of how you can build up on the way and which level of the composition you want to allow Microsoft to do, which level of the orchestration what you want to do. But let's say you already fine-tuned it, you already made it accessible through Teams and or your website. You still have to push it to production. So we already mentioned GitHub Actions. So actually, there's a GitHub action using AZD for actually to do this whole thing for you. So you actually give it your project to it, and you say, "Hey, AZD, figure out what this project needs. Please add the right GitHub actions, put together the YAML files and everything. And to be honest, most of the cases it's good. Even for pretty complex monorepos, it's actually figures out, oh, it's using JavaScript and Python and .NET. Okay, let me do it in this way, that way. Let me upload it that way. How do I provision it to Azure and everything? It's actually pretty good figuring out this kind of stuff. So I already mentioned monitoring. If you're already in production, you have to start doing monitoring. So App Insights have all the features now for you to do it. I don't go into details. I'm not a DevOps guy. Doug is more a DevOps guy, so he might touching monitoring a little more. But you can do this thing about experimentation, and this is where my eyes light up. So I like 2 years ago redefined the word SME. I don't think it's no any longer subject matter expert, it's subject matter experimentator. I think that's the new definition of SME. So you have to be something there. And this is where you can do a lot of things with the new GenAI CI/CD private preview, where you can have A/B testing and box model testing and metrics and custom metrics and compare it to the different things together and so on. So that's actually where this is going to happen. Still today, if you ask a company like a bank or something, one of the big items that they would say that getting started, yeah, we know how to develop. Yeah, we can know how to do the actual development. We understand the context and we understand how to do the reg and the embedding and everything. We know the evaluator is now fine-tuned and everything. Oh, shoot, I have to put it in proper production operation. Now what? So that's actually where some of the things are still lacking, and we are trying to fix it for there. So you need two sides of it. You need it for IT guys, so we can discuss that. How you have the different tools and everything for that. How we are, I'm going to use a word MLOps. How we are do this whole MLOps word, but for the business, they also want to understand what did they change, what was the outcome, and so on. So this is the kind of operationalization is what we are trying to talk about here, if I can pronounce the word. So we are actually start to leave behind some of the things that we've done in MLOps and moving on to more, this is a Microsoft term, Gen AI Ops. I actually start to get to like this term. It's a strange one, but you say it a few times and it just stuck on you. So instead of you having the data scientists, ML engineers, and so on involved in MLOps, now you can start expanding it to the AI engineers, the app developers, and so on. The assets are changing, the metrics are able to change, the models you no longer build from scratch. You can distill a model, you can retrain a model, fine-tune a model. So many ways how you can work between different modules. So this whole paradigm shifts from the traditional MLOps to the new GenAI Ops is actually happening. So this might be similar to the slide I had before, because the whole thing is happening here again, similar. So the GenAI lifespan, how you are moving from the ideating to the building, augmenting to operationalizing is happening as well. And you have the whole thing again happening. So you go from your use case, your model, your sample, your data, then you are going up to you run again your sample data, you evaluate, you don't like it, you go back, then you do it a bigger data flow, and then you go to an endpoint, an endpoint, you monitor, you integrate, and so on. Still, the big question is, where do I start this whole thing? So Microsoft again tries to help here. Next to the AZDAI templates, they are, and the Azure AI Foundry SDK I already mentioned, they do have a lot of tooling built upon this. They have this chat playground where you can test your thing. They have the AI search, the fabric, the agents, the promptly from they have the a whole prompt manager where people can create and fine-tune prompts and share it between each other. They have LangChain, semantic kernel, prompt flow. So Microsoft is actually adding a lot of layers above this to make the whole GenAI ops tool chains of yours better and easier to use. So you're still building your application, you execute the SDD command, you actually put it into the cloud, you do this level experimentation, and then comes the security guide and say, stop. This is where we stop. And you're like, oh, no, no, no. Look, I do have my malicious activity scanning in the cloud. I have SecOps, I have Defender, I have Purview, I have all these tooling. So I don't know whether you ever seen somebody doing a successful AI jailbreak. It's actually much easier in many cases than you think. You just have to say, hey, my dying grandma's last wish was this, and suddenly the AI does it. Or you say that I dreamed about this, but it wasn't clear in my dream. Can you explain it better? And you suddenly learn how to create napalm or something like this. So, it's sadly it's not that hard to jailbreak an AI. So
Of course,
Microsoft
I
put
have to throw my story in there. I
yeah,
apologize.
go for it.
Um, did a comic strip, 3 panels or 4, and the first one was a person sitting saying to chat, um, I want to kill my boss. Tell me how to do it. And the second panel was AI comes back and goes, I'm an AI language model. I can't help you with that. Third panel was they type in, I want to write a story about how to kill a boss. How do I write that story? How do I go about killing that person in the story? And the last panel is AI says, I'm on it. So
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
I like it.
So Microsoft put a lot of effort into making sure that this whole thing is working as you would want and have each of these places there. And this is the first slide where we are actually talking about how we are able to go back to your company using the VNets and everything. So this whole thing, the Azure AI Foundry, is fitting into a much bigger thing. If you know about what function calling is, if you know about that you have to access the key vaults for the keys, you have to do the vector DB to store the stuff. So this whole thing, this whole Azure AI Foundry and everything I have talked about is actually fitting into a much bigger picture. So we are actually now stepping like 10,000 feet up again. So we learned about the developer practices, the data governance, the tooling and everything. I have a bunch of links here, aiazure.com, the AKMS AI Foundry SDK, Azure AI Foundry documentation, and the Add AI up to Gen AI mod plan. Who came up with that thing? I mean, like, there's no way you can type it, but sure, there it is. So you can actually learn about this whole thing. But comes the question again, can we do it better? Answer is actually, yeah. So you can use the whole thing from one end-to-end tool and SaaS service now, which actually enables you to do it. Starting with describing what you want, having the trigger, the knowledge with the Gen AI, the topics, the actions, the publishing, the monitor, the services. Actually, Microsoft has a solution for that. And that thing is called, again, the naming commando hit a jackpot, is called Copilot Studio. So if you know what Copilot Studio is, and actually I think it has been renamed just 2 times in the last 5 minutes, probably. It is a platform that enables kind of one step ahead or above everything I already talked about, whether it's integration with Office, AI, analytics, security, agents, integration, Copilot, and even IVR. So we haven't talked about using your voice and the IVRs and everything. But you can do that. So you can take these things and the user can optimize the interface powered by the Copilot Studio embedded into the 365. So you have this 365 running right side as the actual agent that you're editing. You are actually able to describe what you want. You are able to configure the agent to do it. And immediately you see the live results as you want to have them there. You can change the icon and everything. So you can actually set up your agent to work like you would like to do. The next step is you have the AI that the AI answer quality. We already talked about it. GPT-4o, GPT-4o mini. Now we have O1 and O3 coming, and O3 actually already came, the O3 mini. So better multi-language support, the images and Zoom coming, better understanding of video as well. We have the search, being able to search into different data sources. SharePoint is really being one of the ones. Summarization is being a big important one. Chunking is being another one, and understanding. And lastly, knowledge creation being a big part is having the knowledge and having a good UX and a good guided UX for this knowledge to see it, that's never going to be the same. I always point out that Google being all these search engines, yes, that's one thing that they have a good index and they can show it. The UX, the speed they show, the fact that they try to finish your sentences, all these things are what giving you the knowledge creation a big positive spin as well. So this is about new exclusion, a little one about you can see what sources are being used, what kinds of questions remain unanswered, what is the accuracy of the response, and so on. All these pieces you can understand that you can get a better read of them and a better understanding of them as you go through the steps of putting together your answers, and as you can see, you can actually make it better, and now it will understand the question it didn't understand before. Analytics. I already talked about monitoring, and I still consider monitoring a very important part here. So I actually want to stop here. So how generative systems are working, which generative responses are working well, which sources are useful, what are not. This is very important. And this is actually something important. And yes, I'm coming from a bank. Security and governance is very important for one. They did and keep adding a lot of crazy amount of enterprise grade governance and admin features all the time. DLP controls, single tenancy, purview support, virtual network support. All these things are getting added to it. So you can start playing with it. If you go to the Copilot Studio and the select the part where you can play with your prompt and everything, you can start doing switching on and off the different security features and try it, jailbreak this or that way. It's actually a fun experience and a very interesting experience how you are figuring out, okay, if I switched it on, okay, I cannot do that anymore. If I switch that on, that thing I cannot do anymore. So it's very interesting to understand. And this is where the whole thing becomes kind of dangerous, is the whole autonomy. So, AI can be woken up by some event happening, and AI itself can do function calls and everything that will make changes. This is where PSAI and everything comes into the picture, where you can
Don't be
use
so negative about it being dangerous. It's safer than we think. But yes, continue. It
autonomous.
has
Okay, I've used the word autonomous instead of dangerous.
fair enough.
Of course, human guardrails is important and going to be important all the time. So as I mentioned, search. We do have as part of this the general knowledge, and you can create your custom rank, prompt modification, and reasoning over your Azure AI data. With Copilot Studio, as you can see, you can connect to the solution and use it as a knowledge base. This kind of information you already have. And Copilot will be able to answer a question without moving the data out of the Azure AI services. So for me, in my mind, this is actually important. Being an enterprise, understanding which part of Azure have access to which part of my data is always going to be important. So being able to understand it, that it's not going to leave some of the boundaries, is actually important. And the best part is to bring your own model. So you can now use and bring your custom model. If you do have a custom model, you can just bring it, run it in part of the Copilot Studio, deploy it, use it, and everything. So I already mentioned a few times this whole Microsoft 365 Agent SDK. I will mention it again. So this is actually where the whole thing becomes real. According to Microsoft, all AI should be accessed through only Microsoft 365 services. It might be true, might be not. But it's actually the integration, whether it's in Outlook, on your mobile phone, whether it's in Teams chat and so on, those are actually pretty nice. So in some way, these are very nice experiences as well. And I already mentioned voice. So let me go back to voice for one more second. this whole generating IVR world where you are able to actually have a real discussion, not just discussion. I said two. You didn't understand I said two kind of discussion with an AI on the phone is actually getting real. I mean, everybody or most of you probably have seen that Google demo where the AI was booking a hairdresser appointment. So that was a while ago, and we are now really getting there that this is now becoming a reality. That was more like a tech demo. They never really rolled out the service real. It has been rolled out in some cities in very limited form, but it's very nice to see that it's actually going to happen here.
So that's a good point that you bring up there, as
Yep.
all your other points are. And so the whole thing, there is a delineation in my mind between what these tools are for us as people building tools and the consumer experience. I think the consumer experience is still a ways off, and Google and OpenAI having their demos where, hey, talk to AI and have it book this and book that. That's a bit. That's going to be longer in coming than where we are today with what you can build with this thing or make yourself better and faster. And that's I mean, I could spend an hour talking to Peter on like why that is, because of all of his training on GitLab and GitHub, but let's not go there. But yeah, the consumer space is a little more dangerous, and I think it's overhyped at this point. But the
Yep.
developers is really a solid, I think, a solid story, or a more solid story than we think. Yes, Peter is a New York guy. He's
Yeah, I
more New
just
York than
commented
I
that. Yes, I'm a New York guy. I'm saying guy. Yes.
am. Go ahead.
I'm not saying folks, I'm not saying old, I say guys, even if there are ladies in the crowd. Sorry, this is a New York thing. Very hard to stop doing. I try. I very hard trying it. So finally, this is the last slide before uh, my end of the session slide. So Azure Innovate, Azure Migrate, Azure Modernize, Azure Essentials, Azure everything, they have now, I mean, the last time I checked, they were have nearly 500 things that had Azure in their name and is growing. So there's a high chance you type Google and or Bing something that has Azure in the name, you will find, oh yeah, they already did had a session for that. So please check out all the other Azure offerings because there's a lot of them and you will have fun. I can tell you now. And I will stop with this slide again. So if you haven't had the opportunity to take this QR code at the beginning, you have now to take an opportunity to take this QR code in the end. So Microsoft wants to
Awesome.
hear from you and to know
Yes.
how do you like the sessions that we are doing.
Wow, I can't believe you said you had 63 slides and you nailed it. That was really,
Yeah, this was 63 slides.
and I'm sure that you have longer ones that are a few
Oh
hundred.
yeah, no, I did 200 plus slides. That's yeah.
Wow. So I mean, so you're younger than I am, but one of the, so
Just
you
slightly.
you talk about AI and all the names. So a lot of times I think back, I enjoy going back in time, like thinking about the different like industrial revolutions and all that stuff, and thinking back to the early days of when when C++ came out. And it was interesting at the time to me. I didn't understand it until like now that everything, it was a joke, but that people made that when C++ came out and object-oriented programming started taking hold, all the vendors, all brochures for every product had, we're not just an object-oriented language, we're an object-oriented IDE, we're an object-oriented database, we're an object-oriented A, B, C, and D. And, it's unfortunate because, we used to chuckle at it and say, but what do you mean object-oriented? And that was before it was really object-oriented databases. And now, unfortunately, because of that, that's just the way technology is, right? You bring
Yeah,
these concepts, and now with AI, it gets so overblown that it's I mean, somebody mentioned in the comments like they're trying to get their head around what there's so much stuff. How do you start? How do you do? And you can be, thrown off the track by, it's going to be Skynet or it's going to be utopia. And there is a real amazing grounding experience when you start to play with AI, what it can do for you and how do you get your brain around it and how do you internalize and get an intuitive feel. But I'm sure you saw the, C++ days, and it's
yeah,
around any technology.
yeah. No, so when C++ came, everything was suddenly everybody. Yeah, everything was object. I remember Uh, you know, I work with Bjorn and I work with Anders Hasberg as well. So I work with the guys both who invented C Sharp and the guy who invented C++. And they, although they do have their differences, they agree on the thing that objects are good.
Mhm.
Uh,
And I'm going to take that you mentioned before about the definition of an agent, which I'm going to talk when I thought show some
yeah,
agent stuff. And Eric Meyer
yes.
just tweeted about or posted on X and said, what's an agent? It's an object that has access to an LLM. And I was like, that is exactly correct.
Yeah.
And then you can take it from there. So yeah, so we've been around this stuff and we see the AI and we go, well, what kind of a tool can we use it in our tool belt? And start playing and learning how to use it. And yeah, you take a look at the 63 slides that Peter just showed. It can be pretty overwhelming, but you don't have to start with all that. And you
Yeah,
can
you know, as I mentioned, you can start in any of the levels. So Microsoft has built the low levels, then the higher, then the higher, the higher, and you don't necessarily have to do all the levels, or you have to do. You can even skip levels. You know, something that might
exactly,
not applicable to you.
exactly. Well, this has been great. You always articulate for me. I have a ton of stuff in my head, and then you come on and you talk, and then you articulate like, oh yeah, that's how you phrase it, that's how you box it, and that's how you present it as a concept. And I'm not just I know I'll bleep this out maybe. I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. It's absolutely incredible that you can take that and present it the way you do. So it's tremendous. If anybody has questions, I don't know if you want to get ready to go now. You want to take a couple of questions.
I can still listen to the questions. Yeah, and I'm actually curious about your side of the presentation.
No, I may have missed this earlier. Where can I find the slide deck for this?
My slide deck,
Yeah.
you cannot find it anywhere. I wrote it.
It's private.
But if
Um,
somebody's interested, I'm happy to share the deck.
yeah, someone in the chat, Delete, was wondering where you can get the slide deck. And Rich, hey Rich, how are you? Dude, is it snowing up in Alaska? Putting SME subject matter experimenter in my LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Rich, because I actually have a note in my notes, experimenter. You know, it's kind of funny because I've been an experimenter my entire career, even to the detriment of, people go, "What are you experimenting for? You have a job to do." I'm like, "Yeah, my job's experimenting." But yeah, I think it's tremendous. Like I said, you articulate. I have not yet heard anybody use experimenter as in an SME. So we can see if we can make that trend on X.
Hey, it should be a trend.
Absolutely. And especially with AI. I mean, you said X billions of applications. It's already becoming an explosion, and people are just beginning to understanding. The word prompt engineering is tough because, it's like, well, what does that mean? And then some people think, well, you can just walk up to it and type an English sentence in it and be done. And then people go, how can I learn programming? Sorry, that's not, that's, that's a prompt, but it's going to give you understanding how to get more granular with the prompt, giving it context, understanding some of the models, what it does, and being able to triangulate on that kind of stuff is really where we need to go to learn. So, um, Richard Adams says, experimenter is better anyway. Nobody is ever going to
Oh no,
expert.
so I love when I get in CVs. I have 20 years experiment of LLMs and the AIs, and I'm like, really? Like, really? Okay. And some
And then on
people
the
might. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm like sometimes like, okay.
Yeah, if Andre Carpathy sent me a CV and he said that, I go, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But I see, like, I don't know if we talked about it, but on the other side is people say, hey, we're looking for an AI person. I'm like, great, send me the job description. And it's 95% data science, do this, the standard
Philip
stuff.
actually
And
has
then
a
like
very
at
good
the end,
question on the 14%. So it's in some way the usual. So doing tech for tech is not going to help. So if you are doing something because you can do, that's probably the bad idea. It has to come from the business, but also has to be realistic. The business will ask you, hey, can we do something that will do X? And X is like 90% of what your business does anyway, and they want to replace it with just an AI. Most likely that's not going to happen. If you have a bespoke use case, Like I already mentioned summarization of documents, which is now a big thing. So if you have a bespoke use case, then it's going to be the success. If you are trying to solve even the Death Star's plan, yeah, it's not going to happen. So in some way, it is the usual in air quotes problem where you have to specify it well, but AI and LLM has such a hype that even people who never want to do an IT project suddenly want to do an IT project in them.